So Biden announced that he was going to forgive some student loans. Voila. President Biden announced a student loan relief for the borrowers who need it most. Who needs it most? Anyone who makes like under $130,000 a year, which is a lot of fucking people. That's a lot. So personally, I see it as a good thing. That's $10,000. It's not like full student loan forgiveness, but it's a good step. A small step forward is better than no step forward. So there's that. But yeah, I think it's a good thing. I think most people who have experienced any sort of debt and had to pay it off themselves would think it's a good thing. When I mean that, I mean like even my parents think it's a good thing, and they're Republicans. They don't like the idea of free education. However, they realize that student loans are fucking ridiculous because I'm here in school. I haven't taken out any loans yet. I might have to in the future, who knows, but I'm living off of grants and scholarships. So my parents haven't had to pay any loans, but we have seen just how outrageous these loans can be. We know how bad they are because we know so many people who are still paying them off. I know doctors still paying them off. I know lawyers still paying them off because they're so open about it. Loans are fucking ridiculous here. But a lot of people say that forgiving student loans is a bad thing. And you know what? I can't wrap my head around that. So let's try to have them explain it to us. So let's go with good old favorite university, Prager University.
It's hard to imagine how we could screw up higher education any more than we already have, but we're about to if we make student loan forgiveness a reality. There's a Latin phrase that helps explain why.
Okay.
The phrase is cui bono, who benefits.
The people who don't have to pay the loans off anymore, they benefit. So the average person benefits.
In the case of student loan forgiveness, it's first and foremost the colleges and universities who can charge outrageous tuition largely paid for by student loans. Second, politicians who make cheap promises of debt forgiveness to win votes. And third, students from upper middle class families who would get taxpayers to pay off their student debt.
What about lower families? They also get the fuck out of here. I'm not going to donate. They also benefit. Almost everyone across the board benefits. So students benefit. The universities benefit. And I guess politicians benefit, and why is middle class students benefiting bad?
Who doesn't benefit? Everyone else.
What do you mean
that
everyone
includes
else?
those who didn't go to college, and a new class of suckers, people who went to college and paid off their student loans.
Okay. And they didn't have loans. So yeah, they're not going to benefit from loan forgiveness. What's your point? Should every benefit ever just be across the board for everyone? Wouldn't that be communism or something?
Student loan forgiveness is a reverse Robin Hood. It takes from the poor and gives to the rich.
How? The people don't have the money to pay off their loans. If they don't have the money to pay off their loans, I don't think they're rich, dude.
The argument against forgiving student debt is that no one forced anybody to borrow money for college. Why then should others be forced to pay it off?
Because if you want, like, that job, every engineer needs a college degree. Do you want just engineers to not exist anymore? What about doctors? What about lawyers, politicians? What about scientists? Like, all this shit. You need a degree for that. If that's the case, if only people who could afford it could go, only rich people would be, and there'd just be a somewhat of just an inherent hierarchical society at that point, right? Because then only rich families could send their kids off to college, and then poor families just kind of like, guess you'll work on the farm. Like, the fuck?
Before you think I'm going to go all tough love on you, let me say, I have a lot of sympathy for young people who have dug themselves into the student debt hole. I'm one of them. For decades, our society has made the claim that you need a college degree to get ahead in life, and that the smart bet was to take out any amount of loans to ensure a bright future. And if you need help with the tuition, Uncle Sam, the U.S. government, stands at the ready with his generous student loan programs. Just fill out a few forms, and presto, there's a check in your mailbox. You're off to college.
Okay.
But here's the dirty secret. For every dollar of student loan money the government makes available, university tuition goes up by 60 cents. Colleges and universities don't see college loans as a problem. They see a gravy train.
A place you pay money to sees college. Okay, yeah, duh, clearly. Maybe if we didn't make college so fucking expensive, we didn't have to deal with this problem, right? Imagine if college was free. Imagine if it was universal tuition. You know, universal post-secondary education. This one, it would not be an issue, right?
Most college administrators may be cowards ready to cave before every politically correct fad, but they're not dumb. If the government is going to loan you money to go to college, they can raise tuition virtually at will. You can afford it, just borrow more. And what do the universities do with all that tuition money?
They'll do it even if there was no loans. They would do it regardless. There's a reason why there's huge private colleges in this country that do not accept loans. You know, they will not accept federal loans to pay for their thing. That's why there's private loans. So, yeah, if there was no federal loans, there would just only be private loans, which are worse. The Stafford loan, the percentage on it isn't that bad. Like, it's still outrageous and really expensive, mainly because college is so expensive, but private loans are worse. I was given a loan by one of my local banks. I mean, it's a big chain, but the local branch gave me like the options. 12% interest. Literally 12% interest. I'd rather just not go to school than to deal with that. You know? So, yeah, colleges would still they would still keep the same system regardless of federal loans or not.
Build more buildings, hire more administrators. Hey, somebody has to pay for all those diversity, equity, and inclusion officers, right? Cui bono. Meanwhile, you stagger out of college with a degree and a boatload of debt to pay off to get the same job and salary that a decade ago didn't require a bachelor's. What a great way to start off your adult life. If you fit that profile, you're very likely to favor student loan forgiveness.
Well, currently I don't, because you've always needed a degree to be an engineer, more or less. A lot of math in it. Way too much math, sadly. But, yeah, there's a reason why a lot of jobs are requiring bachelors. It's because they're requiring skills that aren't just common anymore. You know? Arguable whether they need to be in a university or not. You know, I think most jobs you can get around with just an associate's, but yeah, not everyone is very tech savvy with computers and shit, right? You know, back in the day, retail work was just, you had like a printed sheet on a clipboard and you're like, all right, inventory, salary, and all of that. Cool. All right, here we go. Now to do, you know, management and all of that, you need like courses and shit to be able to like, all right, I need to be able to work this program, got to do all this. And that's just the thing of like a more industrial and more tech wide world, you know, because it's just, now you need there's more things to learn. So you have to learn them. Running a business is a lot more difficult now because there's a lot of things you just got to do. And that's for like a lot of jobs now. But like I said, engineer kind of needed that always. So, yeah.
Who can blame you? With a simple stroke of a pen, some or all of your debt goes away like it was never there. And the least you can do in return is vote for the politicians who made it possible. At least that's how the politicians see it.
I mean, not necessarily. You don't have to. You could. You don't have to.
Bono. But who's going to pay for your good fortune? The taxpayers, of course.
You do know that people who are paying for student loan forgiveness are also taxpayers, right? It's not one versus the other.
Modest debt relief proposal out there.
Plus, the taxpayers already paid the money It's not like someone's gonna like, ma'am, I need $50 right now for student loan forgiveness. The money's been paid, dude. Like, what?
Right now, $10,000 per borrower would cost $300 billion. To wipe it all out, $1.8 trillion. And a lot of those taxpayers will be working class people who didn't go to college, in many cases because they didn't want to take on all the debt.
Hey, just because you don't go to college doesn't mean you're not also taking student debt. You know, I've always heard this argument like, I don't need to go to university. I could go to a trade school. You can still get debt in trade school. You know how many registered nurses there are who had to take debt just to go to get their associates to be a nurse? That's not, I mean, you can get that at a university. You can get that at a junior college, but you could also get that at a trade school, which most rural nurses go to. That's working class people. What about plumbers? They need licensing and all of that. They'll go to a trade school. You can still take on debt and all that. Trade school is pretty expensive. Construction workers, welders, all these people you would consider working class can still have student loans. Student loans aren't just for like liberal arts degrees. It's for everyone. Literally fucking everyone. They're just mad, bro. They're just fucking mad that people have the audacity to even ask.
That's why, despite easy student loan access from the government, people in the lower and middle classes make up a smaller percentage of college students than they did 50 years ago. The reality is that
because college got way more expensive, dude, that's why. It went from like $3,000 to like $100,000. So, yeah, people don't want to be like $100,000 in debt. So, generally, more middle-class people are going to go to college because they can afford to go through that debt a lot easier than lower-class people. It's almost like the loans didn't help. Crazy.
loan forgiveness would overwhelmingly benefit the already well-off. It's projected that for every dollar of debt cancellation that would go to the lower middle class and impoverished student loan holders, 7 times that would go to the top 20% of earners, the lawyers, accountants, and doctors who borrowed heavily for their degrees.
But they're still in debt, so what does it matter? You know, lawyers and doctors and shit go to school longer. That's why. That's why they got more debt. They go to school for like twice as long. They got twice as much debt. Not to mention, half of these schools are way more expensive, you know?
This group also includes the people who staff government bureaucracies, corporate HR departments, and school administrations.
Oh, wow. All jobs that require at least a master's degree. Crazy. And who would have thought?
The people chiefly responsible for the woke mini-revolutions, upending institution after institution. For this managerial class, student loan forgiveness would be great. But is it fair? Cui bono. Student debt is a real problem.
Okay, who benefits? People who have student debt. All right, who doesn't benefit? People who don't have student debt. Who does it hurt? Who does it hurt? Who's harmed in this? I don't know. They don't know either.
And it requires some real solutions. But blanket loan forgiveness makes everything worse and rewards exactly those actors who have had such a large hand in creating the crisis, especially the opportunistic universities and politicians. Instead, we should focus on 3 common sense reforms. 1,
Okay.
reduce college tuition and availability of student loan funds going forward.
How do you reduce college tuition though? Let's find out.
We have to break the vicious cycle of ever-increasing tuition and ever-increasing government loans to pay for it.
I agree.
2,
Okay, they don't give a solution to it. They just make it less expensive. How? Well, you could just make more public universities. Public universities are still expensive as shit, but they're way cheaper than private ones. But I don't know. Something about PragerU, who's always against public schools, tells me they wouldn't like that. Ooh, I don't know. It's just a feeling. It's just a feeling, you know? Only there are countless videos about how there needs to be more school choice and how more schools need to be privatized and how whenever a public school is a thing, it's only going to become woke and ruin your kids. That makes me feel, doesn't make me feel confident that they would be pro making more universities public or increasing the access to more public universities. But no, I agree. A real good way to get rid of student loans is to make tuition free, and then you won't have to deal with loans.
We should target limited relief to lower and middle class Americans who have been sold a bill of goods about the value of an expensive university degree, not the lawyers, accountants, and bureaucrats who have already benefited from the.
Okay, so give it to the people who are making less money with their degree. Hey, do you know which college degree gets some of the, least amount of money? Liberal arts degrees. They get shit. They get nothing. I have a feeling PragerU isn't pro liberal arts degrees people getting money either.
The system. 3. Relief should come from rich universities, not middle class taxpayers. Yale, for example, has a $42 billion endowment. Universities have taken advantage of the problem, and it's time for them to contribute to the solution. Cui bono? I'm Inez Stepman, Senior Policy Analyst at Independent Women's Forum for Prager University.
Nice. Okay. So that was an interesting video, but besides that, she says that people who've already paid off their student loans won't benefit. And that is a sentiment that a lot of people have. A lot of people are, saying that forgiving student loans will be like leading to a moral downfall of America, that people won't work as hard, that only certain people want student loans and all of that. And, she says...
Loan forgiveness.
Shush. Inez over here. Shut the fuck up, please. Please stop playing the video. Inez right here says that she was able to pay off her loans, which, hey, good for her. Good for her. Glad that happened for her. But, people like Steven Crowder have a little bit angrier approach. Student loan forgiveness sounds really nice to illegal immigrants, people with no life experience, people who don't have families yet, and people who use preferred pronouns. Yeah. I'm pretty sure that it does sound nice to all of them, because it is nice, Not being in debt is pretty cool. But there is something very cool that Steven doesn't know exists. You can find out how if people have had their loans forgiven. You can see whenever loan forgiveness is a thing on, federal loans. So let's use this handy dandy little tool to find out whether Steven has had any loans forgiven. Oh, wow. Steven R. Crowder. $20,000. Wow. Wow. Again. $20,000. Wow. Insane. That's crazy. I thought only people with preferred pronouns. I thought only people preferred pronouns. I thought they were the only ones who enjoyed loan forgiveness. I mean, I guess technically it's true. Steven Crowder does use preferred pronouns. I'm pretty sure he loves going by he, him, whether he acknowledges it or not. But yeah. So I guess that's technically true. So he's not that much of a hypocrite. But let's get Ben Shapiro. I have a controversial idea about paying off student loan debt. Don't take out the debt you will likely be unable to pay off, and don't ask others to pay off your debts. Okay. All right. Let's find out if Ben Shapiro has ever taken out a loan. Let's do that real quick. Ben Shapiro. Ben Shapiro of Los Angeles, California. Forgiven as of October 25th, 2021, $20,000. Wow. Almost the same amount as Steven Crowder. Crazy. So, hey, Ben. Maybe don't take out debt that you couldn't pay. Right? Controversial idea. But here's the real reason why student loan forgiveness is bad. Here's the real, honest to God reason why it's bad. Student loan forgiveness undermines one of our military's greatest recruitment tools at a time of dangerously low enlistments. Dude, when I read this, I thought it was a fucking joke, and I was like, man, that's so fucking funny. I wish I was the one who came up with that. It's not a joke. He just honestly does believe. He is upset that the military can't recruit more based off poverty. That's so fucking twisted. At the end of the day, the reason why people are like this are so upset about student loans being forgiven is now that the working class will not have as much of a reason to work in these shitty jobs that they do. They're getting a little bit of help, and these people don't want them to have help. They want them to suffer. It's disgusting.